I'm super excited to share this colorful resin bloom coaster set which I just finished making. My resin mix is ready and has started to heat up. This is going to be my base. Let's take a bit of this resin to prepare the bloom mix. This mix will have some mica pigment for shimmer combined with white alcohol ink to set up the body for the blooms. After this has been evenly mixed, I am going to conduct a drop test to check if the resin is ready for pouring. The resin floats. Let's begin with a bang. This coaster is all about fireworks. Even though the coaster is small and edgy, it is almost a circle, so the bloom effect is going to be evenly spread, unlike the distortions which happened in the triangular coasters I made in the past. For the fireworks, I am going to use this silicone container. I have to keep moving fast in sync with the drops to make sure they have enough space between them. Let's cover this up to prevent dust while we are working on our second bloom. The resin was okay for drops, but this is too runny for a controlled pour. So I will switch to using my stirring stick to create the inner petals. I initially planned to swirl the resin in these coasters, but I decided against it for both the blue and the scarlet pieces. I chose instead to let the bloom action play out completely uninterrupted. Let's prepare some more resin for the remaining coasters. This is a low viscosity 2:1 by weight resin. It is a better quality resin suited to coasters than the 1:1 resins which I use for making fashion trinkets. Since this will be a gift and will be used as a coaster, I upgraded the resin so that the wear and tear and the resistance to heat is better. If you are making such a project, check if the manufacturer offers resistance to discoloration also. After all, you want your coasters to be hardy. Once the resin had rested, it was time to mix the bloom colors. Some lint has managed to sneak onto my clean coaster surface. Let's fix this with some masking tape. I had intended to add the alcohol ink before painting the petals into the mix, but no worries. This bloom was not too much about the color and is more about the layering. I'm actually going to be adding another layer of resin to this coaster before it is finished. Oops, I was focusing so much on the pouring that I didn't notice my gloves scrape the surface and spill the ink. This low viscosity resin is more runny than what I'm used to, but I think I managed the pouring speed well to get a defined stream of resin. The ink is spread a bit, but my bloom stream is still intact. I'm thinking that eventually a dark background should take care of this rogue ribbon of alcohol ink. Let's add a simple sandwich layer of resin and matching mica pigment to add some depth to this bloom. I feel that the streaks of fireworks are a bit too spaced out, so I'm going to use the sandwich layer to add a little more bulk and make the composition more even. This bloom is looking lovely and super delicate. I'm going to add another layer of petals in this clear middle layer to add some bulk and complete this flower. This time I'm using a piping bag. The resin is not very viscous yet, plus I want this layer to be as delicate as possible because if it becomes too opaque or heavy, it will ruin the contrast of the existing petals with the background. The bloom is in action. I will just guide the petals a bit before putting it away to cure for a day before we cast the dark background for the coasters. Whoops! It's wrong container. This one is empty. Let's start again. The background for the blooms is going to be black mica pigment and resin. The sandwich layer of the coasters will give a colorful tint to each of the coasters, making them stand apart from each other. Wow, the alcohol ink seems to have finally won the battle of surface tension, splitting the petal open for a truly dramatic effect. While this wasn't the intended outcome, I'm chalking this up as a valuable lesson in the learning process. The result is quite dramatic, giving the petal a fantastic windswept appearance. I kept this a monolayered bloom. The deep dark background not only delivers a striking contrast to the white elements but also works to absorb and conceal the ink that spilled. My coasters are fully cured and ready, and the blooms look very promising. Now, they need a proper home where they can be stacked and stored. To complete the set, I will be making one more bloom, the coaster holder itself. I plan to continue the bloom design theme while casting this holder to ensure the whole set is cohesive. Let's start the reveal with our yellow layered design. Look at that layering. You can see both the layers so clearly from the side. The center is beautiful and curly with this yellow gathering towards the middle, and the second lacy layer is making the whole thing magical. Moving on, let's turn our attention to the blue fireworks piece. The three layers show prominently from the side, and I'm loving the movement of the white in the clear and the light blue resin. The color palette is very faithful to the sky, moving from day to night colors. The layering of the fireworks is also very pretty. The front ones are more defined and the ones at the back a little out of focus. Now for our soft scarlet bloom. Let's see what we've got here. I'm genuinely curious about this one. Ooh, the layering on the side is so soft and wow, look at that. The texture towards the center is like the ridges we see in a hibiscus petal. The middle layer of color has also softened the overall contrast of the larger bloom petals. Finally, our fourth coaster, the petal in the wind design. Let's set it free from its geometric cage. Nice. The side profile layering is so crisp. This bloom is clean and the whole blown petal thing is giving it a rather poetic look. I'm composing a haiku in my mind right now just by looking at this coaster. The contrast and quality between the inner and the outer petals gives this bloom a beautiful three-dimensional look. I particularly love the soft wispy curling of the inner petals, which are highlighted by the yellow. These stand out against the outer petals that have opened fully to the edge. Due to the careful layering, the shimmery dark mica pigment background sits slightly away from the petal, allowing the delicate lacy texture to cast captivating shadows upon it. This is a cheerful one despite having the blues. The bloom action that created the petals has a dynamic quality, making them look as if they are still moving away from the center. Usually I don't like it when the petals meet the edge, but here it gives a semblance of continuing beyond the boundary, hinting at the vast expanse of the sky. The gradient from the center to the periphery is also working very nicely with the overall design. Thanks to a happy accident, the pigment in the base wasn't completely mixed, leaving little splashes in the background. It's almost as if the background understood the petal in the wind mood and wanted to reflect the motion. Having said that, this is one of the best defined blooms I have ever made. I love the way the petals converge and swirl, creating a strong center without needing glitter or other craft embellishments. The center has real gravity and the consistency of the entire bloom is sublime. Look at the visual softness of this scarlet bloom. It has a palpable texture, almost like the crest of a coxcomb flower. You just know it would feel soft to the touch. Now our 4 blooms are ready, each showing its own unique personality, and I'm really pleased with the outcome. Hope you enjoyed the making of these 4 styles. Check out part 2 for how I made the coaster holder and finished off the pieces to make them practical. Happy crafting and have a wonderful day.